I've been tagged in a few videos about the Aramaic translation of the Lord's Prayer, and I want to offer my thoughts. First, here's the prayer.
I came across the direct translation of the Lord's Prayer from Aramaic into English, and I just thought everyone needs to hear this. The Lord's Prayer that most people are familiar with is the translation from Aramaic to Greek to Latin and then into English. But this is the direct translation that archaeologists uncovered on a scroll from 1892. O cosmic birther of all radiance and vibration, soften the ground of our being and carve out within us a space where your presence can abide. Fill us with your creativity so that we may be empowered to bear the fruit of your mission. Let each of our actions bear fruit in accordance to our desire. Endow us with the wisdom to produce and share what each being needs to grow and flourish. Untie the tangled threads of destiny that binds us as we release others from the entanglement of past mistakes. Do not let us be seduced by that which will divert us from our true purpose, but illuminate the opportunities of the present moment. For you are the ground and the fruitful vision, the birth, the power and fulfillment, as all is gathered and made whole once again. And so it is.
Now, I love these mystical interpretations of prayers and things like that. And personally, I don't have an issue with it because prayer is something, it's deeply personal. And if this brings you closer to the heart of Jesus, then awesome. But that being said, there's much in this video that is purposefully misleading. And I do have an issue when people pass things off like this as actual literal interpretation of an ancient language that few speak today. Because while absolutely beautiful, this is not an actual translation of the Lord's Prayer. But here's what grinds my gears, because this is what happened. When this prayer is presented on social media or in emails like this video, this translation comes attached with a little story that goes something like this. Archaeologists discovered this prayer translation on a scroll in 1892 in Aramaic that shows us we've been translating the Lord's Prayer all wrong for 2,000 years. And then people pick that up in the comments and are led into, well, if this prayer has been so badly mistranslated, just imagine how many other things have been manipulated through the years. You see what just happened? But here are the facts. This translation, it's fake, it's fugazi, bogus, spurious. In other words, it's not a translation. Yes, there was a scroll discovered in 1892, the Sinaitic palimpsest, but it uses language that developed well after the time of Christ, and that scroll's actual rendering of the Lord's Prayer is pretty identical to the one that's been in use for 2,000 years. This Aramaic Lord's Prayer is actually a mystical meditative interpretation, and it comes from a modern Christian mystic named Neil Douglas Klotz and was published in his 1990 book, Prayers of the Cosmos, Meditations on the Aramaic Words of Jesus, and you can actually check that book out in my profile link. And in the book, Neil even gives a disclaimer saying, the transcription of the Aramaic words into English characters is not meant to be a formal, scholarly transliteration. The latter would have required the reader to learn yet another alphabet with special characters, and this book is meant to be used by laypersons. But don't let the author's own words stop the spreading of a good story, right? Over the last 30 years, this prayer has been making the rounds, usually through email, but with the invention of social media, is blown up again. So much so that Neil Douglas Klotz just went on record to say, there's been an enormous number of paraphrases of my multiple translations of the prayer floating around online for the past 30 years. The one now floating around is the current one. As far as I can tell, none of the people doing them know Aramaic. They're just improvising based on their own fancy, using material from the multiple actual translations from Aramaic in my book. I've nothing against people improvising on what I've done for their own use or composing their own prayers from scratch. It's when they begin to post that something is the one true translation from Aramaic that I start getting a lot of email. So there you go, straight from the author's mouth. If you like the prayer, whatever, like I said, personally, I think it's gorgeous. But don't go around saying that this is the actual way to translate it, because it's not. This mystical interpretation of the Lord's Prayer is not to get back to the true meaning of the texts. It's to use the words as a meditation and to expound on the text's meaning, which is part of what mystics do. And as long as it's not betraying the heart behind the original meaning, I mean, whatever floats your boat. But don't try to pass it off as a literal one-to-one translation, or try to stoke the flames of conspiracy by spreading fake legends or saying, well, if this has been so badly mistranslated, what else are they hiding from us? Because when you do that, you're being a part of the problem, not the solution. Let's all be a part of the solution. Let's seek the real truth and spread real love. Is it a great prayer? I think so, but we can do without the misinformation component. And click the pinned videos for more.